I'm a woman who stands at the midpoint of 4 generations of women who have cared deeply about what was called the social gospel. It represented a belief that religion was not a private vision of God, but a message about responsibility and concern for others. We seek a community, a nation, a world where life is fair for everyone, where children are fed and treasured, where there is safety and clean air and no war. Virginia Woolf said in a writer's diary that she was inspired by what she called reality. If I could catch the feeling, I would, she said. The feeling of singing of the real world, the sense that comes to me of being bound on an adventure. That is the reality. Life is an adventure. I can testify to that with every fiber of my 88-year-old self. The adventure has to do with love, but also, most poignantly, with the search for truth. When you have truth, you have meaning. And when you have meaning, you have it all.
Well, when I said Mother gave us the best of ourselves, I think she gave us our humanity, our care for people, probably by example, respect for ourselves. She helped build our self-esteem.
As I traveled with her as a child or a young woman, she would introduce me to a politic, to an art form, to an expression of one thing or another, and it was like tasting bits of her world.
Well, if you were here, I'd go give her a big hug, sort of tender hug, just put my arms around her, but just touch her,
It's through her that I developed self-confidence, and I learned how to face and talk to people, because she told me that I did not come to Canada just to sit in the kitchen. I have to face people and to be with people.
She was an unusual woman. And I do think it's the combination of pain and opportunity and intrinsic character.
Mary Coyne Rowell was born into a family that nurtured her passion for social justice. Her parents, Nell Langford and Newton Rowell, were a devoted and influential Methodist couple. The conditions that they saw around them shaped their social and political values. They cared deeply and actively about the world of which they were a part. At the same time, they were committed to the voice and the future of their country.
Well, I don't think that either Newton or Nell were what you'd call revolutionaries, but they certainly were reformers.
My interest in international affairs came naturally due to the activities of my parents. My mother was president of the Canadian YWCA and their representative to the World Organization, and I attended world conferences with her. These dealt with the conditions facing immigrant women and women factory workers. My father was in the national government as Minister of Health and President of the Privy Council during the First World War. He was a Canadian representative at the first meeting of the League of Nations and early president of the Canadian Institute of International Affairs.
She grew up in a formal household where the dining room table conversation was of international affairs and affairs of state in Canada and political talk and all this kind of stuff.
We children, when we were small, had nursery tea and only came down for dinner when we were old enough to behave ourselves and sit quietly. And I remember my father would often tell us interesting points of legal cases that he had been taking in court.
She had, at a young age, a wide scope of understanding. And her relationship with her father was really very tender and trustful. So she must have grown up in an atmosphere which she knew she was cherished, but that she had duties. And these were almost equally strong forces within her.
Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the time you can, as long as ever you can.
The Methodist Creed was more than a call to duty. It was a call to action in every part of life for all of one's life. Mary's grandmother wrote this letter to her teenage granddaughter.
I am thinking lately about our grandchildren. I do so covet one or more for the Mission Guild. The need is so great, and the Lord, who has given such advantages to you all, wants laborers who will answer the call, saying, "Here am I, send me."
Her grandmother's call resounded in a world swept up in the torrents of change. The missionary movement and colonialism continued to transform Asia and Africa. The First World War was raging in Europe. Women were fighting for the right to vote. The Bolshevik uprising engaged millions of people in the excitement and the upheaval of revolution. As Mary grew and developed, she was aware that she must find a place for herself in this world of change. In fact, these issues were to define her choices and her activities throughout her life. When she was 13, Mary was sent to a private school in a quiet corner of Quebec. Her parents expected her to learn French to honor Canada's two cultures.
40 years on, when afar and asunder parted are those who are singing today. When you look back and forgetfully wonder what you were like in your work and your play. Visions of girlhood shall float then before you. Echoes of dreamland shall bear them along. Fight for the fearless and age for the eager. 20 and 30 and 40 years on.
Mary's lifelong joy in female friendships bloomed here. The friends she made at school would later sustain her through her darkest hours.
Oh, the great days in the distance enchanted, days of fresh air in the snow and the sun. How we rejoiced as we struggled and panted, proud to the last of our school honors won. Follow up till the field ring again and again with the shout of the victory won.
Even though Mary was far from home, spreading her wings perhaps for the first time, her mother reached out, reminding her daughter of her obligations and responsibilities.
My dear Mary, the fact that you were head girl, I feel it is a real honor. I know you will realize it is also a responsibility. I hope you will use your position in the best way at all times. In so many little ways, you can help build up the best in your school and strengthen girls in taking the highest stand.
the pressure to meet her family's loving expectations suddenly became even more urgent and intense.
Mother's favorite sibling, Lanky, her elder brother, he died of a sports injury at Victoria College, and that was a great loss for her. And Lanky was the sort of the pride and joy.
Langford's death was a terrible blow to the whole family. I know that Raoul didn't talk much about it. Langford had been expected to go into law and then perhaps join the firm the father was in.
The pictures of her with her brother Langford are tender and just so touching. I think it was a huge loss to her, but it was also a loss because she became the eldest child.
Why couldn't it have been me? A daughter can never mean what the eldest son does to parents, and so it seems so useless for me to ever try to heal their wound.
The family had suffered this grief before. When Mary was only 4, her younger brother Edward died in infancy. Nell's sorrows never entirely left her. Mary's presence was a comfort for her family.
Dear Mary, this is to wish you a very happy birthday on Monday next. It was indeed a glad day when you came to us 20 years ago, and each year has come with added pleasure and satisfaction as we have watched you grow and develop. You are now the joy and comfort of our home. This past year has not been an easy one for any of us, but you have made it so much easier for your mother and me by your constant thoughts and care for us. I cannot tell you all that you have meant to us this year, and I cannot tell you all it has meant to me.
Still struggling with her sorrow, Mary returned to her studies.